I just wanted to throw up just really quickly two more obstacles or disturbances that came up here in the break. The first here is the pitch of the songs we are doing. And I think that we as worship leaders need to be very aware of which key are we placing our songs in. Because if we place a song usually if you place a song in the original key, if it's a performance song, then a song that is in the original performed by a professional performer, then they will usually be in a relatively high key. But most people in the congregation are not trained singers. So if you place the song too high, they will either be struggling to get up to those high notes that they can't reach, and that will be a distraction for them. Or they will put it down an octave. They will sing down here, right? And that will be a distraction too. So we need to be very much aware of where we place. In English, the word is tessitura, or range. Tessitura basically means the distance from the highest to the lowest note. If this is our clef, and we have the song, it starts down here on a C, and the highest note goes up, maybe it goes around, and the high note is up here, right? So this would be the tessitura of the song. And in my experience, for a song to be sung by not trained singers, you should never do a song that goes higher than this D here. This should be the highest note. On some occasions, if it's a really energetic song, where you have a really high note that is really good for it, then you can go maybe half a note higher. But you shouldn't go any higher. That's when regular, untrained singers would start struggling. The same in the other direction. You can go down to the C, you can go a little bit lower occasionally, but usually aim to stay inside these 4 lines here, 5 lines. That's a good guideline anyway. The other obstacle is physically an obstacle. Like literally. Physical objects on stage can be obstacles because they can be blocking our body language. You notice that I have moved stuff away here, so you can see my whole body language. In some churches, I mean, when we were setting up for this conference, right in the middle here was a huge pulpit, this high, this wide, and I've seen them all over, and I always try to get rid of them. Because what happens, first of all, when a preacher goes behind them, he has an important message to preach, but you're only seeing him from here and up. So you're hearing his words, and you're hearing his tonality, but you're not seeing his body language. Yeah. And body language accounts for approximately 55 or more % of the message that we understand when we understand a message. So if we only get, the words are actually only 5 to 10% of what we understand, or just the words. That's why so many arguments happen on email. Yeah. Right? Or people start arguing on Facebook. Because they're just seeing the words. They're not hearing the pitch, the tonality of the voice, and they're not seeing the person's body language. So the person who's sending the communication can be meaning one thing, but the recipient understands a totally different thing. So people can get in huge fights over banalities, really. So the same thing goes for a preacher who's hidden behind a pulpit like this. You miss his body language. You're missing almost about half of his message if you only see him from here and up. And what usually happens when you have a pulpit here, that is then the worship leader, the worship leader will go and stand behind that and do the leading. And that's even worse because we are literally leading with our bodies. So if people can't see more than half of our body, then they are missing a lot of what we are communicating or trying to communicate in our leading of the church. So whenever I can, I try to get rid of them. All I can. We have in Eckerö, this conference I told you about, sometimes we have a guy preaching who has a problem with his knees. So if he stands up for a longer period of time, his knees starts to shake. So he wants something to hold on to. Like, he's an evangelist, so I'm not going to argue with him. But if I could have my way, I would get rid of it and give the guy a chair or something. So that's just, I mean, physical objects can also be obstacles in communication. So my point here is try continuously to analyze whatever is going on, physically communicating, to identify what are my obstacles, what are my distractions. And if there was a guy, was it you, Tommy? I think it was Tommy, came up to me here in the break and said, what do you do when the congregation is singing really loudly and you're trying to make them more quiet? You had the point also in doing no, you had the point, yeah. So I think what we need to do is that if we as worship leaders notice that this is going on, then the first light that should go on in our head is, what are we doing wrong in our communication? What are the obstacles or the distractions that needs to be removed so that our communication will get through? Sometimes our own body language can be an obstacle. And that is what we're going to talk about now when we go into the conducting session. But first, I promised Daniel to just, I'd like to see just a raise of hands on how many of you that are intending on going to the instrumentalist workshop next door. 2, 3, 4 people, 5 people. Good. So that workshop is going to, you still want to do it, right? Yep. So that workshop is going to start in 10 minutes. So when it's 5 o'clock, just sneak off, and then Daniel is going to give you a great lesson next door for instrumentalists. And I will continue to talk a little bit about the purpose of conducting. And just before we were talking about that conducting is not just what your hands are doing, but it is the whole message. And I like to differ a little bit between, or differentiate a little bit between leading and conducting. Because conducting is leading, but leading is not only conducting. So when I talk about conducting, I talk literally about musical conducting. Like what is going to happen with the music. So what are some of the elements that we can conduct? What are some of the elements that we are trying to work with as conductors? Some hands? Yeah, it's a hand there. Rhythm, yeah. So if I can put them up here. So rhythm, and with rhythm you also mean tempo, right? Yeah. So yeah. There it is. I don't know if I'm spelling this correctly here. T-H-M. Tempo.
2 H's.
Is it correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. But just when you're seeing your own writing this big, this close, it's really difficult to see if you're spelling correctly.
There's an H after the R.
What?
R-H.
Rhythm.
R-H.
Like that?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Yeah. Dynamics. Yeah, that's right. And with dynamics we mean loud, quiet, right? Yeah. Good. Other things? Feeling. So when you're talking about the interpretation of the music, the feeling of the... Good one. I'm going to say also emotion. interpretation. I hope you can read my notes here. Yeah, it's a hand couple.
So signalize the specific part of the song. For example,
Yeah.
the intro, then the piano came, and so on.
Very good. We call that the form. When you use the word roadmap. So the form of the song. Yeah, anything else?
Volume.
The start and the end.
Starting and stopping, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Other suggestions? No? Okay, so I tried putting some up at home, so let's see if I guessed what you would say. We have the starting, stopping, yep. Just check this one off here. We have the tempo dynamics. It's this one here. Tempo, thank you very much. We have the form. Yep. Here's one that we didn't have actually. Singing or playing together. That we are all singing, you know, together and not just a group of 100 soloists doing their own thing. And we're trying to be together in the music. This one we had the interpretation and the feeling. This is this one here. Yeah, and the tempo and the dynamic. And then we had the phrasing. A musical phrase literally means what you sing from you take a breath and you start till the next time you take a breath. So if I would go, sometimes you can breathe in a phrase, but it's going to be I don't know an English word for that, but you're not losing the energy of the phrase. For example, if I would sing, Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me, then you have two phrases. You have the Spirit of the living God, and then you have the fall fresh on me. And there's phrasing is how do we speak this music in a musical language. So I could go, Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. We're doing what we in Danish music terminology calls banging in nails. Right? Banging all the notes on the head. There's not much phrasing going on there, right? Then you could think of it as an arch. So you can say, where are we working towards? So you can bind it together and you can say, Spirit of the living God. You have a middle landing here and then you go, fall fresh on me, and then you land there. Right? That is a phrase. So how do you build that in? How do you communicate that with your body language? Good. And as we agreed, all of this can be verbal or non-verbal. So, this part is probably, I think, one of the most interesting parts about conducting, because how much can we really conduct? I'd like to take a look at what we call a communication chain. So if you're a singer or a musician, and you are performing or playing or singing for yourself or by yourself, then you are making the decisions. If you are the only one in the room, basically, or if you're performing on stage. Then what happens then is that you as a performer first has an intention. You get an idea. Why is it not on stage? Oh, there it is. Okay. First you have an intention. you get an idea about what are you going to do, how am I going to interpret this thing. Get a musical idea. Maybe you prepared yourself at home to figure out the phrases, how they're going to look, how are you going to interpret this piece of music. And then you put that into your instrument, which could be your physical instrument or your voice, and then you have what we call a realization of that intention. And then the music comes out, right? So that means that as a singer or musician, we have 100% control, taking into account, of course, our skill. But within those limits, we have 100% control of the music that we make. Now, let's throw a conductor into the equation. A conductor first goes through the same step. He has an intention. We've been talking about where we want to go musically. So we have a musical idea, what's going to be loud, what's going to be quiet, what are the phrasings, the form, everything. And then we form that into a presentation. We present our intention with our body or with our voices. And then that is received by the people who are singing, in this case the congregation or the band behind us, and they perform an observation. So they observe what is this guy actually doing, and then they interpret that into their own language, musical language. So they make a transformation. Because if you're a singer and I'm conducting you, I'm making music with my body, but you have to make the music with your voice. So you have to transform your observation of my body language into what you're supposed to do with your voice. Or if you're a violinist, you have to transform it into the movements of your bow and your fingers and everything. So there's a transformation of the observation going on. And then finally you have the realization of the music. That means that as a conductor we control 40%. And the singer or the musicians control 60% of the music. So the real challenge for us when we're trying to conduct something or lead some music, is how do we use our 40%? We only have 40% to communicate our whole message. The rest, the 60% of the music, happens once that whatever we're communicating gets received, transformed, and realized into music. So this is just a call, again, to be really, really clear. We need to be extremely clear with our 40% for people to understand what is it we mean, what is it we mean with what we are conducting. So I like overall principles. You probably figured that out. So here are some overall principles of conducting, and the first one we already talked about when we talked about leading, and that is that conducting must be intuitive. So how do we conduct intuitively? Well, here's the first law, or in this case the second law of conducting, is that we obey the law of gravity. Here's a little cartoon for you. We have a guy flying around in the air, and the guy at the chair says, "Wilson, gravity, Wilson, try it sometime." So we need to obey the law of gravity. What do I mean with obeying the law of gravity? Well, can everybody see what this is? It's a ping pong ball. So what's going to happen when I drop this ping pong ball on the floor? Who can tell me what happens? It bounces. How's it going to bounce? Someone sing it to me. What's going to happen when it bounces on the floor?
Jump.
What does it say? It goes right? Why do we know that? Experience. We are born into gravity. We have learned and internalized how gravity worked ever since we were babies and we were dropping our nappy out of the little trolley, and then our parents would pick it up. Experiencing what gravity works, how it works, right? So therefore we know that when this ball drops, what's it going to do? Let me try a little experiment. I'm going to conduct this ball now. I'm going to conduct how it is going to jump. Can all of you see it? If I drop it on the stage?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to conduct the ball. Are you ready? I'm going to go. You see, I conducted the ball.
Wow, Esben.
But why could I do that? Why could I do that? Here's the thing. And this is what we use this in conducting. Because we can see literally on the speed and the movement of the ball, when is it going to hit the floor next time. Because we know, here's the law of gravity for you. I'm not a physicist or anything, but here's the law of gravity. If you have an object up here, and here's ground, and there's a little flower here, flower, and here's an object, and it's just, right now we're just holding it up there, and then we just let go. So what happens is that this object falls down to ground, and now, if there are any physicists in the room, please disregard air resistance, disregard that the ground is going to absorb some of the B, because when I'm explaining this and there are some people with a physical background, they all say, yeah, but then there's the air resistance and everything. Just imagine that this is a vacuum, okay? This is an isolated system, it's a vacuum, and the ground is made of pure diamond. It's rock. Right. So the object's going to fall down, and then it's going to jump up like this again, until it reaches the same height it began with.
Well, it's even higher.
Yeah. Is it higher? I'm sorry. So, it's just an illustration, right? So up here, because it is above ground, it has what we call a potential energy. Because it has a potential energy to fall. It is being pulled down towards the ground because of gravity. And then as it falls, to begin with, it doesn't have a speed really. The split second we let it go, it doesn't have any movement. But then it starts to move, and then moves faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until it reaches the ground. So all the potential energy it had up here gets turned into a kinetic energy, thank you. Which means an energy of movement. Right. Then it hits the ground, and then it bounces back up again, and then gradually as it races up into the air, it loses its kinetic energy because that gets turned in again to potential energy. So at any given point here, let's say we look here, then when it reaches this point here, it will have the same speed going up as it had going down at the same point over here. So this means, and then of course it's going to do the same thing again. It's going to keep bouncing in the same pattern as long as it doesn't lose energy to the floor or the air around it, stuff like that. And we can use that because this law is so built into us that we don't even think about it. And that means that once this ball hits the ground, we can predict, as long as it is just following the law of gravity, we can predict when it's going to hit the ground the next time. Okay? So, if you can all, now I've changed to a tennis ball, so it's easier for you to see. Now I would like all of you to clap. I'm gonna let this go down into the ground, and I'm gonna let you guys. I want you guys to clap when it hits the ground. As soon as it hits the ground, I want you guys to clap. Just once, okay? Are you ready? And, yeah, almost precise. Okay, now try again. There was a delay, what happened? What happened? I interfered with the law of gravity because I threw the ball into the ground. I did not obey the law of gravity because I gave the ball an energy it shouldn't have. So you were late with your clap.
And you were early with your throwing.
Something. Okay, so I was not obeying the law of gravity anyway. Now let's try it again, but now I want you guys to clap the second time the ball hits the ground. Okay? So the ball is going to go down, it's going to hit the ground, and it's going to fly up again, and then you clap. You clap as soon as it hits the ground the second time. Are you ready? Yeah! Super precise. Good. This we can transfer into conducting. Now how can we do this? Now I am going to write a little piece of music for you here. It's a composition of mine. And it looks like this. My own composition.
Wow. There's a master.
So now you're going to be the performers of the very first performance of my composition here. And I'm going to be conducting you. Can you see? Can you all read the music?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So I'm going to be conducting you, and you're going to be the musicians. Right? So, I'm going to conduct you now. You ready? Why did you play? Come on! What did I do wrong? Too fast. I didn't obey the law of gravity. Right? I was just, ugh. What happened? Ugh. We're gonna clap. Let's try it again. You ready? Awesome! What did I do this time? I obeyed it? Yeah, and how did I do that?
The hands.
Huh? One at a time. Fingers. What did I do? One down there. Yeah? I bounced. Yeah? I communicated a beat before the actual beat. See? And there. That's what we call the preparation beat. Right? Okay, what else did I do? Other hands? Yeah?
You looked at us.
I looked at you. Right? My eyes were literally going, are you ready? I was looking around, checking that you were ready. And then we had the preparation beat. Other things I did?
You were consistent in your preparation beat and in your first beat.
Yeah. I didn't interfere with the movement. I didn't go, right? My hands were literally moving like a ball would bounce. Right? Literally like a ball would bounce. I don't stop the anywhere, right? So you, because you know the law of gravity by heart, you can predict when are my hands going to hit the ground the next time if I just continue to have that movement. Right? I did one more thing. What did I do? Hand down there, yeah. Sorry? I didn't do it very fast. No, that's true. That's right. That's another thing. Yeah, it wasn't what I was thinking of, but yeah, that's definitely also a thing I was doing. I was giving you good time to perceive what I was doing. Yes. One other thing I was doing is I was actually breathing with you. I was going, right? Like if I was playing a wind instrument, like a trumpet or a flute, I would need to take a breath. Right? So I was breathing with you. And then I was breathing out when the actual clap was going to come. So I would like us to to try this right now. So if you would like to, I think if you can just sit on the edge of your chair. I'm just going to take a chair here, so I can be you. So usually when I do, I've done this class a couple times at home. Usually it takes 7 hours. Now we don't have so much time. And usually when I do that, the people are usually sitting at a table. Because the table has a really good height when we're sitting at it compares to our elbows and our hands. And literally when we conduct, we talk about a sound table that we are communicating on. So everything that we conduct happens on the sound table, the invisible table that we have in front of us. Okay? So right now we don't have the benefit of tables, so I want you to use your thighs. So if you really sit on the edge of your chair and you put your hands to rest on your knees right here, good. And then I would like to, for you, if you're right-handed, take your right hand. If you're left-handed, do it with your left hand, and just let your hand bounce as if it was a ball on your lap. It looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and keep the movement consistent. Don't interfere with the movement. Just let it be a fluent movement. It's going to be a little bit slower in the top because of the gravity, and then it gets faster and faster as it lands. Right. Okay. Now try and move it around a little bit in front of you, so you move it to the sides of your legs, like that, for example. But imagine that you still have the impact that you feel when you hit the thigh. It's about feeling the same thing in your muscles. You see, I'm still hitting. If you don't, you can take a hand and try to hit. So you kind of hit in the air, but with the same sensation as if you were hitting on your thighs. This is a good exercise. You have a table over there. That's awesome. Bastards. Okay. Now you can have both hands. Try to do the same thing with both hands. And concentrate on having your hands move in the same way, so they go equally high and they bounce equally fast. They don't go like that, but they bounce in the same tempo. Okay. Alright, so can you all do this sensation now? You can notice how it feels when your hand, how does it feel in your arm and in your hand when you literally tap your thighs. Hook, 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 hook. Now I want you to move away from your thighs, but have the same sensation in your hands as if you were still tapping a surface. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your hands are still bouncy balls, and they're still hitting a surface. It's just an invisible surface. Doink, 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 doink. Relax your shoulders. Relax your muscles for as long as possible, because you're going to be doing this for a 1.5-hour symphony. Right. Okay. And you feel that keep it low, because if you start conducting up here, that signals a different kind of energy. Right? If you're a singer and you get conducted by someone who's up here, you as a singer are going to be, you know, down here, you have a nice sound, right? You see the whole body is sounding, the whole body is relaxed. You have an exposed torso. You're open, you're communicating, right? You don't go with your hands in here, because then you're hiding your torso. Go out here, so that everybody can see your torso and your posture, right? Try not to go too high. It should be so that once you hit your table, your elbow is about a right angle, right? So you're hitting it about a waist high if you're standing up. Okay, now I want you guys to stand up and do the same thing. Okay, so now we're doing it again. You're ready with your hands? We go and bounce, 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 bounce. Keep it low. I see a lot of you people are up here. Go low. Go down to the waist and have your table. Imagine that you have a table in front of you, and that's the surface that everything happens on. Now try and stop conducting, and take the table in front of you, grab it, lift it, and move it somewhere else, and set it down. Yeah, good. The table is about the height of your belts, if you're wearing a belt, or the edge of your trousers. Okay? Now grab your table again, you just put it over here, so grab it and put it back in place. Okay. Now it's a little bit, it's not really in place, and now it's all of a sudden it's really heavy. So try and lift this very, very heavy table. It's going to go. It's a really heavy table, right? Try to do it again. Try to lift it over here now. Here you go. Good. And now it's a really light table. Try to lift it back to the place. It's going to go. Yeah. Okay, now feel the surface of the table. Slide, just caress the table. It's a really nice old antique table. Mine is anyway. So feel it. It has a really nice smooth surface. Just feel it. Your table is not like that. Tables are flat. Okay? It's a flat table. Okay, now we grab a glass. It's over here. We put it on the table. You have to look at the glass when you take it. Right? Okay. And over here on the shelf we have a bottle of wine. It's really good wine. So we need to take the wine, we put it on the table. And then we take a plate and a knife and a fork. Place it on the table. And then we want a candle also. There's a candle here. Yeah, a candle. We put it right in front of the plates. Right. So we have the plate now. We have the knife and the fork. Where do we put the glass? We have it here, right? And the wine. Where is that? It's right here. Yeah. Good. So now we take a lighter. Or if you're that kind of guy, you use matches. You can grab it over here, and then you light the candle. Yeah, good one. Put it back. Oh, remember to turn off the match. Good. Now we grab the bottle of wine, or water if you don't drink alcohol, and then you pour in the glass. Oh, not too much. You open it. Exactly. Right? So you can lift the glass and then look at why there's nothing in it. Put it down. Okay. Now this bottle, it has a screw cap. So you take the bottle and you screw off the cap. You put it over here. And you put it back on the table. And then you remember, oh, I was about to pour up some wine. So you take the wine and then you pour up in your glass. Not too much, just, put it back. And then you lift up the glass and you say cheers. 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 You drink. We put it down on the table. Now where was the plate? It's right here. Where's the knife and the fork? There. Good. Where did we put the candle? Right there. And the bottle of wine? Over here. And where is the glass? Good. Where did we grab the bottle of wine? On the shelf over here. Good. Why do we know that? Why do we remember these things? Yeah, because we have established a room, a communication surface. We have a surface of communication, and we have established different areas on this surface of communication. And these different areas have they have some meaning that we have given them, because we have established the surface. Okay, now we just take everything and we push it off the table. Good. Now we have a clean table in front of us. Yeah, I'm sorry about all that wine. So now we have a clean table in front of us. Okay, because we suddenly remembered it wasn't time to be eating or drinking, we need to be practicing our conducting. Right? Now we have a clean table in front of us. So now we start practicing our conducting. We start tapping the surface. Just be bouncy balls. Imagine that your hand is actually hitting duk, 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 duk. Just like the ball goes oink, 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 oink. And keep your movement in your hand. Look at your hand. See the movement of your hand. Try to let it bounce around the table. Bouncing around the table.
Do we always need to use both hands?
No, no, no.
No, can also-
But it's easier to practice that way. So we're bouncing our hands around the table. Try to let them bounce from side to side. Doink, 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 doink. Now opposite. In and out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. And let your fingertips tap the surface. Dook, 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 dook. Good. Now turn your hands and let the side of your hand bounce on the surface. You're a little bit like a puppet. So your hands, your fingers are not moving around like that because that's a disturbance. You just relax, just like you would say hello to someone, shake their hand, right? So your hands are bouncing, and the contact surface is under here, right under your hand, like that. Doop, 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 doop. And literally feel, try to feel the contact. Where does your hand have contact with the table? Okay. Good. Now let's try and speed it up a little bit. So now we're going to go do a tempo that goes 1 and 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4. Just bounce around. Doesn't matter where you hit, as long as you keep bouncing. Now do it slower, 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 slower. Now your hands are suddenly getting heavier and heavier. Oh, you're like a man on the moon. It's a small step for man. Good. Now, make sure that even though the tempo is slower, that you don't interfere with the movement that your hands would have if they were just obeying the law of gravity. So you don't go or right? Just let them bounce, completely relaxed. They're just obeying the law of gravity, just like bouncy balls. Okay, now imagine that you're standing in a pool of water up to here. So it actually gets more difficult to move your hands because you have the resistance of the water against your hands. Still bouncing, but it's a little bit harder for the hands to move. There's a resistance. Very good. And now imagine that your hands are out of the pool again. Now your hands can get free. And now your hands are going to get really light, so they're going to go hook, 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 hook. All right. Thank you very much. Good job, everybody. Yeah. Awesome. So, the second rule of conducting is to obey the law of gravity. Because if we don't obey the law of gravity, people can't read us. And then we're not using our 40% very well. But if we obey the law of gravity, then our conducting, our movements become so intuitive that people can predict where the next beat is going to come. Okay, good. Now, we were just conducting in 1 beat per bar right now. This is one beat in my little composition here. We're conducting that. Usually what we conduct doesn't have just 1 beat, it has more than 1. So what we do when we conduct, if you have, let's say you have a piece of music, which is in 4/4. So you have a 1, you have a 2, and you have a 3, and you have a 4, and then you have the next part. Which beat would be the heaviest? Yes. Good. So how do we show that this beat is the heaviest? Well, the easiest way to do it is by always having the one beat, the first beat in a bar, go down vertically. Because this movement is heavier than this movement, or this movement. That's the heaviest. Right, so always the one beat going down vertically, hitting the spot right in front of you on the table where the plate used to be. Good. Which beat would be the second most heavy?
Third.
The third beat, yes. So this is the heaviest. This one is the second heaviest. Which one is the third most heaviest? Second one, yeah. And the lightest is?
The last.
Exactly. Great. So that requires how we do our conducting. That's why we have different movements, because some beats are heavier than others. Let's say I want to conduct this little thing here. Then I would need to conduct 4 beats, so I would need to show my congregation, this is the 1. Now, where is the second most heavy movement? That is the 3rd beat. And the lightest is the 4th. So we know that we need to go down to the 1 beat, right? That means that from the 4 beats, we need to end up here. The beat is still down here, but we need to end up here so that we can go down to the 1. Good. So now I want, and this is what I did when we did the clapping exercise. I did the 4-1. So now I want you guys to do the same thing. You can do the 4-1. Again. 4-1. One more time. 4-1. Again. 4-1. So you're basically bouncing up and 4-1. And bounce. 4-1. And bounce. 4-1. Bounce. 4-1. And now we put a 3rd beat on. I don't know if you noticed. We did and 4-1. So now we already have the 3 beat, not the third, the 3rd beat, because that needs to go out so that we can go up and down, right? Okay. So how do we make this one go out? That means that after the 1 beat, we need to end up in here so that we can move out here, so that we can move up here and down. But for this beat to go in and people to be able to see that, because we can't just go like that. We have to bounce, so we have a reflex. We have a reflex going out, 2, 3, 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. You bounce out and in and out and up and out and in. Let's put up the tempo and up and out and in. Remember your table. Out and in and out and up and out. Remember to bounce. You're still bouncing. Out, in, out, up, up. Good. So, the movement that we're doing, is that we have, now I'm looking at it from your point of view, we have the 1 beat going down here, but then when our ball hits the surface, it bounces, continues in that direction. So we have the beat that goes out here, that's the reflex. This is what we call the path. That is the path down to the point. And after the point we have the reflex, or the rebound. So it bounces out here, but then it continues. Still the law of gravity is just slightly tilted. Goes back again, swings in like a pendulum, and just has a slight point down here. This is the path, point, and rebound, or reflex. Good. Then does the same thing again, like a pendulum, in has the point, swings out here again, and then swings up. Whee! Very nice. And then the whole thing continues, right? So this is the movement we're doing. We go out in the pendulum, right? Out and up. Out, in, out, up. Out, in, out, up. Remember still to keep the law of gravity so you don't go, because people can't read that. Continuous movement, your hands are continuously moving as though they were just bouncy balls on a surface. And out, in, out, up, out. Good. Awesome. This beat here is the 4 beats. We use that whenever we have 4 beats in a bar. Yes. So what do we do if we only have 2 beats? Some songs only need 2 beats. That could be a song that is literally written in 2. It could also be a song that is written in 6/8. Or it could be a song that's written in 4/4, but it's so fast that if we tried to conduct it in 4/4, then we would be moving our hands so quickly that it would be more like a distraction and it would be more difficult for people to read. So that's why it's easy to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Good. So if we are in 2, we still have to have the 1 beat going down and the last beat going up. This is the 2 beat. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. Out, up, out, up. It's a little bit like we did with the pendulum, except when it swings in, it goes a little more like up, right? Out, up, out, up, out, up. Good. So, what do we do when we have 3 beats in a bar? We still need to have the 1 beat going down, right? So, that's the 1 beat. And we need to have the last beat going up, like that. But now we only have 1 more beat left. And that beat needs to end up out here. So that means that we need to reverse the reflex down here to go in and then go that way up. So now when our 1 beat flies down, it needs to bounce in instead of out. Then it can swing out and up. 1, 2, 3. In, out,
Can you do this
up.
with both hands?
Absolutely. So you go in, out, up. In, out, up. You go in and out and up. In, out, up. And make sure your hands never cross in the middle, because then you're blocking your torso. So your hands just slightly meet. In, out, up. In, out, up. I'm just going to do this really, really slowly for you, because this is probably the most difficult beat to do, apart from when you have really obscure time signatures like 11/8 and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that today because you're probably not going to need it anyway. So go through this really slowly with me. We start up, and then we're going to bounce down to the middle, and then our hands go in, and then we're going to stop when we get there. So our hands fall down, and they bounce in. All right. Now they're going to bounce down again, and this time they're going to bounce out. They go that way. And now the last beat we know because it's the preparation for the 1. It goes and 1. All right. Let's do it again. We start up here. Go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In, out, up. In, out, up. In, out, up. In and out and up. And in and out and up. And in, out and up. And in and out and up. In and out and up. And 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're getting so fast that we're going to need to go into one beat. So go to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. We have a waltz. Ba da 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 da. Blah 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 blah. Da 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 da. Okay, bravo. Okay. Now you also figured out how to conduct a waltz, which is the one beat, but it gets slightly rounder. So you actually have a 3, 1, 2. So the beat actually goes up like that. It's an explosion. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. That's the waltz. Alrighty. Then we had this was the third law of our overall principles, that the one beat must always go down. Next principle is that all communication happens on the beat before. So if I'm going to signal that you're going to sing, I'm going to go and there, right? So I give you one beat there, right? And I signal the beat before I signal that you're going to sing. If I go, now you sing, then you're going to go, right? So one beat should always be enough. Then there's going to be some drummers who's going to say, I need 4 beats. Okay, you count them in then. 1, 2, 3, and. Right? Singers, instrument players, one beat should be enough. Technically also for the drummer if he is good and if you're clear in what you're doing. Right? Because if you give them more than one beat, they are going to start getting confused about where are we going to come in, and am I going to come that beat or that beat? How many beats is he giving us? You know? So instead be super clear in your body language and give them just one beat, just like the clap exercise. Now we're going to try another little exercise here. We're going to have our one hand doing our bouncy ball. Let's just do a 2 beat. So we go 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we're going to try to separate our hands. So this is an answer to the question on how to conduct dynamics. So we're going to try to, we have this beat going. I'm going to tap the beat with my foot so you can hear it. You don't have to tap it with your foot. Never ever tap your foot on stage, by the way. That is a distraction. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop conducting. We have the beat going. We take the hands up in front of ourselves. So stop conducting. We still have the beat. Now we're going to take our hands going slowly out like this. There's some insect flying around my head. I don't know what kind of insect that is. Interesting. Sorry about that. Start again. That's a distraction. Okay, so we have the hands going here. Yeah. What's that guy doing? What does he mean by that? Come on! Does he want me to sing like that? Is that the soup? Okay. We have our hands here. We have the tempo. 1, 2, and now what we're going to do is we're going to now just demonstrate, and you just watch first. So our hands are going to go slowly out on 4 beats. They're going to flip, and they're going to go back. Keep the movement fluid. Flip, 2, 3, and flip. 2, 3, and flip. 2, and flip. And try to make it a straight line, not a curve. You're going straight out. That means that you're actually going to have to, because your arms are on hinges, so they will naturally move around. But if you want a straight line, you're going to have to actually think a little bit further out and down when you get out here. Otherwise your hands are going to go up. So think a straight line between your hands and then turn back again. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1. Imagine you're doing this in a pool. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1. Try to keep the same tempo all the time, and 1, 2, 3, and turn, 2, 3, and turn, 2. So you have to economize the movement, and turn, 2, 3, and turn. So next time we go up, we go diagonal, and 1, 2, 3, and down, 2, 3, again, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. This means you actually have to think out a little bit when you go up, because of the same thing, and back, 2. See this from the side, and 1, 2, 3, and down, 2, 3. Now let's go vertical, 1, 2, 3, and turn. You're still in the pool, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and turn, 2, 3, and stop. Good, bravo. Now we're going to try and do the same thing, but we're going to maintain the conducting in one hand and do the movement in the other hand. Okay, are you ready? So we do let's do a 4-beat. Can you all do a 4-beat now? Sure, good. So we do the 4-beat, which goes out, in, out, and up. Okay? And the tempo is the same as before, but this hand is going to move around freely. Okay? And 1, 2 is away with the hand, and 2 through. Now comes the hand, and 1, 2, 3, and turn. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and turn. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and turn. 2, 3, and now diagonal. 1, 2, 3, and down. 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3, and down. 2, 3, and vertical. 1, 2, 3, and down. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and down. 2, 3. You see where this is going? Right? You see where this is going? You see that? This is really useful if you want to show dynamics. You can still conduct, but you can show a crescendo with one hand and a decrescendo again. You see? This is awesome. Okay. Now, of course, I mean, I first got introduced to conducting in 2000. So I've been practicing this for 13 years. I don't expect you guys to do it just bam. This is something that takes a lot of practice. Here's the best tip I can give you. Practice these plastic exercises or whatever you're going to be practicing in front of a mirror. Because then you can always see, you can never feel how your body is moving. Because you may feel all kinds of music in your body and you're trying to really express it, but it looks really silly or it doesn't get interpreted. If you look at yourself in a mirror, or even better, bring a video camera to church when you're conducting a song and film yourself and then go home and watch it. Because then you can see, oh my goodness, is that me when I'm conducting? I should really move my hands more like whatever, you know. Practice in front of a mirror. Do this a couple times, a couple minutes every day. These movements. Practice the bouncy ball exercise, and try to really clean out all the obstacles, all the disturbances. Do not disturb the musicians while they are playing. as my old conductor says. Meaning don't show all kinds of weird things, be really clear. It's like my old conducting teacher, when I took my education, his biggest passion apart from music was cooking. And he used to compare conducting technique to when you were cooking a fond for a sauce. Have any one of you tried that? Yeah. Take a lot of great ingredients and you put it down, you have some carrots and meats, some onions, some all kinds of good stuff. You put it in a pot or something, pour in some soup, some whatever, and then you turn up the heat and then you let it simmer. You leave it there, it just simmers, and it boils down, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Then you filter it, and you do the same thing. You keep boiling slowly, slowly, slowly. And what you started with, this huge batch of ingredients, is now turned down to this little cup of concentrated fond, with all the taste from all the ingredients that you put into the pot. And all the unnecessary obstacles, all the unnecessary that has boiled away. That's what we want to do with our conducting technique, and in essence, any leading that we are doing from stage. We want to boil away all the unnecessary stuff and get into the funk of leading. Right? So remove all the signals that goes in all weird directions, remove all the obstacles, and just get the clear, straightforward technique. You don't have to have big arm movements or big hand movements or like a lot of energy in your body to communicate great music. I could do like this. And I'm hardly moving my hands. Right? Hardly moving anything. I'm just having the fun of conducting. When I conduct something really quiet, sometimes what I like to do is just conduct with my middle finger. And that's enough. If I'm just focused enough, if I'm not into the music and I have enough fun, that's enough to conduct an entire orchestra. This takes practice, and this takes observing what you're doing externally. Get input. Look at yourself in a mirror when you do it. Videotape yourself. Okay? Good. Next rule, you're going to finish up real soon, is to listen. Listen to what's going on. A good conductor listens backwards and thinks forwards. So, which means that you're listening to what just happened in the music, and you're thinking of where you're going to go. It's a little bit like when you're trying to lead someone. Have anyone of you seen some of those TV programs where someone who's blindfolded has to go through an invisible labyrinth and they're being guided by someone else? We had a program like that in Denmark. It was quite entertaining back in the 80s. So this guy who's blindfolded is walking through this labyrinth that he can't see, and someone is just guiding him through sound, through headphones. Turn right, okay. No, right, okay. Good. So you constantly have to correct, the guy's actually moving in that direction. I want him to go there, then that means I need to lead him in that direction, right? This is what we're doing. We listen to what happens in the music, and then we lead people from there to where they're going. I think it was Søren Kierkegaard, famous Danish philosopher, who said that the art of helping people, the great art of helping people is first to know where they are coming from. Because if you don't know where they're coming from, you can't lead them to where they're going. Because if you're coming from there and you need to go 20 steps in that direction, but I think you're here and you go 20 steps in that direction, you're not going to end up the place you want to be. Right? Okay. Really quickly, next point is to be prepared. This cannot be repeated enough. Be prepared. If you go on stage and you don't know what you're going to do, if you're just a little bit confused, that's going to be rubbing off on the congregation, musicians, anybody who's going to follow you. The congregation will immediately pick up, unconsciously usually, that the people on stage are not entirely sure what they're going to do. And then they will become unsure of what they're going to do. So the more prepared we are, the more securely we can guide other people to where we want them to go. And then the last point is, do not disturb congregations or the musicians. We've had that before. All right. Now it's almost 6 o'clock, so there's been a lot of things that I would have liked to go through. Like I said, this class when I teach it back home is 7 hours, including lunch break. So if there's something, just a single thing that you would like to go through in the last couple of minutes. Someone mentioned starting and stopping. We could go through that. We already had it a little bit. We had there. We haven't covered the stopping yet. You want to cover that? We can also cover tempo changes, or we could cover, I don't know, anything if you feel what?
Like repeating, like if you just have idea to repeat something.
You want to repeat some of what we've already done? What do you feel like? Stopping. Okay. To stop the music, I'm just going to illustrate this really, really quickly, because we know that all communication happens on the beat before. So to stop on a beat, I need to show people that they are going to stop on the beat before they're going to have to stop. So we do a cutoff. I don't know the correct English term for that, but the movement is in a circle. Okay? So let's do the 4 beats, and then we do the cutoff. It looks like this. Just look at me. It says 1, 2, 3, and off. If we're stopping on the 1. Okay? And just for the sake of the video, you can go home and watch this later. If you're stopping on another beat, if I want to stop on the beat number 2, it would look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2. Okay? If I'm stopping on the 3rd beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. All right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You basically go and you touch the point and you go back. Same thing as if you wanted to stop on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay? Now stopping on beat number 4 is a little bit more simple. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting what I'm doing here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Good. Now you have this on video, I hope. So you can go home and watch this and then practice it, put it on repeat. But there's one little thing that is really, really, really important. I cannot emphasize it enough when it comes to cutoffs or endings. And that is what I like to call the after sound. I would like to put it up here. After. Okay, so try to, can one of you just really, really quickly suggest me a really short, easy worship song that you all know by heart? Sorry? Something a little bit slower so people can follow what we're doing.
Sanctuary.
Sorry?
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary? Does everybody know Sanctuary by heart?
No. Very soon.
I think we can all do the last line of Sanctuary. You can just hum it, right? You're gonna hum the last 2 lines of Sanctuary. And And I'm going to conduct you. You can stand up if you want. And first time I do it, I'm going to make as many mistakes in the cutoff as I possibly can. Okay? So we go ba da ba to and. This is the ending. Thank you. What did I do wrong?
You disobeyed the law of gravity.
Yeah.
Going too fast again.
Yes, well, and I did something else which I've heard over and over again.
Said thank you.
I said thank you. Yeah, we hear it all the time. The worship leaders conducting this really intimate song, they stop it and they go, amen. Or they go, and now let's turn to number
433.
you know, or
That was nice.
we have the ending.
Thank you.
So what is actually happening here is I would like to make you all aware of this after sound concept. And the after sound is the lingering sensation of the music right after it stopped. Let's try it again. Last line of Sanctuary. Na, na, na. Now I'm going to try and do something and then try to sing it with your na 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 or whatever vowel you're using, or if you know the lyrics, you can sing the lyrics. Try and really sing it as if this was in church. Okay? Na na na. Na na na. What happened?
Wow.
Feeling there right after we end, where the music is still lingering in the air.
Yeah, I should.
A conducting teacher, not the one with the disturbing music, but another teacher I had, he described it this way. When the music is over, the after sound is like this little fluffy guy who, when you cut off the music, just drifts slowly to the ground. And then when he reaches the ground, he starts running over to the corner. And the music isn't over until he is over there and he's hiding. So if you do all kinds of other things, or you don't obey the after sound, if you take down your hands before he's hiding, like, then you're doing like that. That's the fluffy guy. Right? So let's try it again and really notice what happens. Last two lines of Sanctuary. Na na na. Na na na. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you for today. That's all I had for you.